And now I tilted my camera the wrong way, the other way.
Did that sound go out on you for a second, bud?
No, I don't think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Welcome to Tradier's Rundown. I am Jim Urio. That's Bob Iacchino. We are the co-hosts of the critically acclaimed Tradier's The Trader's Edge. The show called both, what was it called again?
Irreverent.
Irreverent and smart. And basically, he used some words that made it sound like you might think they're two dumb dagos, but actually they're not. That's kind of the wording that one critic used. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. We're here to talk about lumber. So if you remember going back the 5 years since the nonsense started, lumber absolutely skyrocketed, doubling in price in 2021, and then having come off, then shot back up again, and now it's come off, and now it's under 600 in the futures contract. What is the lumber market telling us right now? Is it just a question of higher rates? Because it seems like real estate demand is still pretty good.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. First of all, the gap that we had from yesterday to today, incidentally, in the lumber futures, 7.1% gap higher. And we didn't really move much from that level. As a matter of fact, we didn't go negative at all. We're ended up with a positive change on the day versus its own open. So not only do we have the gap, but we have a little bit more movement higher on the day. So we're going to end up somewhere around up 8% in the lumber market. I think you're looking at a combination of things. Number one, you have deregulation coming, right? So you have much more free. And that one of the areas that President-elect Trump has talked very actively about where he wants to deregulate is in construction and building, right? It's one thing he's talked about for the second term. The second thing is that environmentalists have made the supply very short. Right. So we've had some supply issues in lumber very recently. You know what I mean? You even have to go much past the pandemic to find another shortage in lumber. And then you have the theory of rates continuing to go lower. Now, I would argue that the 10-year note highest correlation to the mortgage rates, right, is the 10-year note. I said that pretty awkwardly. Yeah. But you're looking at the highest 10-year yield right now since about June 10th of this year. So, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be new construction. The housing market can do well on sort of soaking up some of the supply of the existing home sales. But you would expect that if rates were to move lower on the 10-year and shorter, you could see demand in terms of new homes as well.
Okay, so, I was a bull on 10-year yields. I thought they were going to go up to 5%. Now with all this talk about cutting spending and Vivek and Elon being put in charge of the DOGE, the efficiency department, whatever. So now I'm wondering, because even I think this, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, if they cut taxes and reduce in the short term, reduce revenues that they're getting, but they are at the same time cutting expenses and doing real, actual, genuine cuts, I think demand for our bonds globally will pick up, even though we might be at more of a deficit in the short term. Am I crazy?
I completely agree. And I think that has an effect on the lumber markets. It takes us to another point. When you have a government as bloated as you have ours, right? It's just like the contestants on My 600-Pound Life. The first few weeks is really hard for them. And then they get into a groove. Same thing's going to happen to the U.S. economy. So you could see lumber back off based off of what you just said. But that's likely going to be something you want to buy down the road.
Okay, so now important question. What in the hell is My 600-Pound Life?
That is a reality show where people 600 pounds and over try to lose weight. Oh. And you get coaches and you watch them the whole time. It's really,
now we're back on the same page.
It's not a guilting pleasure. It's kind of a disgusting pleasure, but it is a little bit of guilt in there.
Okay, so no, there's one more thing I want to circle back to housing, because I look just the election. I think one of the key elements of the election that just happened is that Kamala Harris was talking about boosting demand for houses into an obvious supply shortage of houses. Like it was one of the most economically illiterate notions I've ever heard in my life. But based on that point, do you think that it's environmentalists and government? Like, is the housing shortage more to do? Is it to do with those increased regulations?
Yes. I mean, look, to me, regulations are a form of price control. And anywhere there's been price control, there's been housing shortages. Right. And that's why her suggestion, or it was really Joe Biden's suggestion, but she took it on later in the campaign, of restricting rent hikes and things like that. That just restricts supply. It stops people from building more. So now we got the opposite that's about to happen in theory, in traditional economic theory. Reduce regulations and reduce the level of interest rates by reducing the need for bonds. And then you have more building. And that's definitely bullish for lumber in the medium to long term. Easy.
And we just talked to Stephen Moore at the Orlando Money Show, and he was very clear about what the new president's mission is going to be. And that is to solve higher prices from a supply side angle, meaning make it easier to produce. And just look at that in something like oil. If he's a drill baby drill president, he could easily boost the supply of oil. I know that will take 18 to 24 months, but you have to think that that could happen through regulating the housing market as well. Although there is still a lot of crap that's done on the state and county level as well, but it is a start, correct?
We saw what can happen with consumer prices in this particular release of CPI, because you had used cars higher, you had shelter costs double, but you had gasoline prices down 0.5%. That brought the entire batch of data down in line with expectations. So we watch it every time the data comes out.
Okay. This has been Tradier's Rundown. I'm Jim Muriel. That's Bobby Iacchino. We are the hosts. Please join us of Tradier's The Trader's Edge that airs 3 p.m. live on Wednesdays. Thank you guys so much. None of this works without your support. You've given us a ton of it. Thanks for the DMs, the retweets. We'll see you on our show.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.